Hi, everyone. Thursday, November 10th. It is 30 Minutes with Spyglass Lending. Again, it's a special one for me, not because we have two incredible guests, which we do. And the first time we've had two guests on the show, not just one person, but it is the 25th and last episode of the season. So thank you all for joining us today. I saw Mindy get excited there. I could see that. She was like, wow, on the last episode. Yes, last episode of the season. And I really wanted to make both of you the last guests. I really did, because I think what you've done is incredible. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. But before we do, I have to introduce you. And we need to learn a little bit about both of you. So let's start with this. Mindy Ellison, Audrey Ellison, mom and daughter living in Walnut Creek, who have started a movement. And yeah, I'm going to call it a movement. Walnut Creek Garage Door. Welcome to 30 Minutes with Spyglass Lending.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Mindy, we're going to start with you. We were talking a little bit before this started. You've been in Walnut Creek pretty much your whole life. Is that right?
I have. I grew up in Walnut Creek. My husband and I moved around a little bit, and we came back to this area in the mid-90s.
And have been there ever since. Okay.
Ever since.
And let's tell everybody listening, because we've got some listeners from all over the country. Hell, I hope all over the world. Where is Walnut Creek? You know, give us a little location.
We're about 40 miles outside of San Francisco. We're a small little town.
Yeah, but I'd say this for anybody who knows California, knows like of even Southern California, where I'm from. We know of Walnut Creek. You know, it's a great, pleasant, beautiful little community. Certainly, you're about 40, like you said, 40 miles east of San Francisco, a little bit east of Oakland as well, and it's just a beautiful pocket right there for sure. And Audrey, let's
shopping, great restaurants,
all of it, right? Checklist. And Audrey, obviously, you've been there your whole life as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I have. The only time I ever have left Walnut Creek is when I went to college in Oregon, which was a very different experience than living in Walnut Creek or living in California naturally. So I've lived here my whole life, besides for about 2 years. Yeah.
Where was that college?
I went to school in Portland, Oregon.
Nice. One of the better cities in Oregon. Eugene's pretty good too. And you know what? To anybody listening up in Oregon, all your cities are great. But we're Californians here first and foremost, so we'll have a little of that Golden State pride. And Mindy, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
I sell high-end plumbing. All right. I'm in a showroom. I'm now working in Walnut Creek. I have worked in San Francisco for about 6 years. I'm now in Walnut Creek, and I actually walked to work this morning.
Oh, how awesome is that? Yeah. Is it your company or you work for someone else?
No, I work for Jack London Kitchen and Bath.
All right. A little plug for Jack London Kitchen and Bath right there. And Audrey, what are you doing now?
I am currently working for my county elections office. We just had the midterm, so that was a pretty big event for us. But I am basically on the first floor, and I'm one of the customer service people. Like, I'm handling callers, dealing with voters, and kind of doing some organizing behind the scenes to make sure everything goes smoothly.
I mean, 2 days after the election, are you exhausted? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I did work 17 hours on election day, which was a lot. And then I had to be back at 8 a.m. But once election day hits, a lot of people think it gets more stressful, but it gets less because the heavy lifting is done. And now we just have to deal with mostly organizing and trying to get the vote certified.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I mean, let's stick on that for a moment, if you will. When you talk about certification, how long until it's going to be certified? How many more weeks do you have here?
For California, we're certifying on the 8th, but we have to be done about 2 days beforehand.
December 8th, we're talking about, right? So,
yes.
Okay. So a little less than a month away at this point. And what needs to be done? What does it take now to certify these votes?
Now we are dealing with organizing, making sure the ballots are valid. A huge thing in California is signature verification, which is what I deal with most of the time, where before a ballot can even go anywhere, I have to certify the signature. Like, there's a whole team of us who are certifying signatures all day, every day. And then we have to deal with ballots that may be challenged, no signature, etc. Like, they just can't go to scanning or extracting yet. And then once that's good, they get extracted and scanned, and then the vote is counted.
Amazing. And forgive me, you had mentioned at what level you're doing this? Is this city or county level?
County.
Okay, so for the entire county. And what county is this?
Contra Costa. It's about a population of 1.3 million, but we have about 700,000 voters.
That's a sizable amount of people got to do. I mean, think about that number. No doubt, there's a lot of work to be done, obviously. Mindy, did you think this is where Audrey would end up?
This has been a fascinating couple of weeks for her. She has a poli-sci major, so it's kind of tying everything together for her.
Yeah, and an exciting time to do it in this country, right? Because I mean, obviously, there's a lot of talk. I mean, this isn't a political show, and we're not going left or right here, but just so much has been put on on elections and ballots, and concern or not concern from a lot of people about how it's handled, right? Whether it's done in person or the end of the or mail and stuff. So Audrey, we appreciate that you're out there doing it. It's a labor of love. There's no doubt about it. And I think for a lot of people, in your position, and I can't speak for you obviously, but it's interesting. Like I think about myself, like if I was working in the county or city level, I mean, just the notion that you might be taking some flack for it and hopefully not. And hope, the people understanding like you're out there doing the best you can and doing the right job for a lot of people, because this is a democracy and it's very important. So thank you for that. So you're already doing something good on one level, and now here both of you are doing something incredible on another level, because it's important we really get into this now and what you've done. Garage Door Walnut Creek, or let's give the plug right now, at Garage Door WC on Instagram, and you can talk about any other social that you want to in a little bit. But you really have started a movement, and why don't I let you take it, Mindy? Because I think it started with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what was on your mind and why you did it?
So all four of us in this house were home at the start of the pandemic. My husband's a teacher. Audrey was a student. My son Bo was a student, and myself, all home. Four of us in this house. And we were nobody knew what was going on. Everybody knows what it was like at the beginning of the pandemic. Nobody knew. And so we thought we would do something nice. And we printed up on a color printer some, 8.5 by 11 motivational quotes. And we took a walk downtown to Walnut Creek and we taped them up all over. And then the next day it rained.
Right. By the way, when you say you taped them up all over, I'm like envisioning like Renegade. You're not just putting it on utility poles where it's actually okay, but you're putting it on stop signs, you're putting it on mailbox, or were you doing it within law?
We were putting it because everything was empty. So we really kind of had a little bit of freedom of where we put things. We probably put between 50 and 100 of them out.
Yeah.
Taped them all over and went home. And then it rained. And so they were all ruined. Right. Or most of them. And as we're driving up to the house, I looked at the garage door and I thought to myself, oh, there's a pallet. And so we went and got some tempera paints and we tested it out to make sure it wouldn't hurt the door. And we started. And we were only going to do it once. And then we enjoyed it so much. My husband, power washed it down and we did it again. Yeah. And then it became kind of a way for friends and family could come over with a lawn chair, sit on our front lawn, all social distancing, perhaps have a glass of wine, and paint with us and chat or paint themselves. So it became very social. People would walk by and say nice things. I don't think we expected to do it every week. I don't think we expected to do it this long. It just kind of is where we are.
No, this is exciting. And I again, I want to take you back to that first time, that first day. So first of all, amazing kismet that it rained, because it forced you to do something a little bit different, right? Because obviously it wasn't going to work to keep putting that up there, or I'm sure putting up 50 to 100 flyers, realizing, the print, the time, and running around and doing all of that. But you had your own door, you had something to do, and you put up this. But again, going back to the idea of why a motivational message, I mean, as you said, the four of you in the house, and I think all of us can relate to what that really felt like in the early parts of the pandemic. Of just knowing, like, this it's isolating and it's hard.
And I think it was self-soothing for us. I don't know that we had this big philanthropic thought process going into the first couple of weeks,
right?
Because it was time for us to be outdoors. It was time to do something creative and get all that angst out and kind of settle ourselves a little bit. And people would walk by and they'd say nice things, and so we'd get to interact from a distance with people, where we really weren't doing much of that at all.
Audrey, what'd you think when you first saw it, when mom pitched this to you? What was going through your mind?
I think at that point, because, a lot of people were like, oh, I'm going to take up a hobby. I'm going to start doing crafts or whatever. She was kind of like doing that herself while I was kind of doing schoolwork. So I thought it was just like, oh, this will just be like another like project for now, and then we'll move on. But she did it the first one. I'm not sure if I painted with her. I don't remember. But then when I saw it, I'm like, okay, like, let's do it again. And let's do this and I'll help. And she's like, okay. And then that was the week after that. And then once we started doing it every week, I'm like, okay, this is doing something.
Yeah. And every week is a lot. But again, I want to stick to that first one because you put up a really interesting message, Mindy. Tell us a little bit about that very first garage door.
We said, thank you, essential workers.
Yeah.
And we did it in big, huge, that garage door is huge. It's a huge pallet. And then everybody that drove by was able to see it or walked by. Not very many people driving by at that point. But everybody was talking about essential workers, and essential workers were working so hard at that point.
Sure.
And so we wanted to show our appreciation.
No doubt. And I remember back at the time, I mean, obviously, all of us were rallying and realizing they were the ones there on the front lines, I mean, doing what they were doing. I mean, unquestionably, from everyone in the grocery store to teachers, who were making it happen on Zoom and putting it together and doing what they could. And hey, you saw a lot of commercials about it and all of that. But seeing it, because again, I did go on your Instagram and I scrolled all the way down to the very first one because I was curious myself what it was. That struck me. I mean, like I kind of felt like the heart flutter a little bit seeing that picture. It brought me back to the time. It really did, because it was like, yeah, that's right. I mean, and it's sad that not forgotten now, but it's not the same thought of what they do every day where we are now in this part of the pandemic, or let's say that we're no longer in a pandemic, hopefully. But it is interesting you started with that. And then tell us about 2 and 3. Like, I mean, what did you think, like, oh no, now I have to think of something else? Or what was it like the next week putting up number 2?
So number 2 was Mr. Rogers. We did a Mr. Rogers quote.
Yes. Talked about the helpers.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't think that it took us a long time to get to the point where we struggled for an idea. Things were flying into our brains and into our consciousness at such a level that we could probably have painted every day.
Yeah.
A different door.
So you were almost, you had to show some restraint not to be able to go out there and just be like, oh, let's power wash this out and put something else. I mean, to really keep it going, it makes sense to have done it, once a week, obviously.
Well, and we were doing it when I was working in the city. My day off was Wednesday. So Wednesday was our painting day. And so we'd have friends come over, we'd have family come over, we'd sit, with a glass of wine and social distance and paint. And then we had guest painters too. We've had a number of guest painters.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I mean, this notion, you started building this sense of community. How many people would you say would come over at a time and look at the garage door or hang out on the lawn with you and drink the wine?
Easily every week that we painted, I would say 20 to 30 people would walk by.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's sizable. So, I mean, again, in a small community, just to do that or to come by and be part of it. Audrey, what were your friends thinking of this when you were, different age groups?
So before we even had it, like our own social media account, just because we didn't necessarily have an initiative behind this. Like we were just posting it on our social media for our friends and family. And like I had people my age like DM me, be like, oh, where is this? And I'd be like, my house. Like, this is my house. This is not like some like kind of like street art. Like it's my house.
That makes it, that's really cool, because again, it's interesting. You think about the Instagram culture, like people seek out street art. They want to go take pictures. They want to find angel wings on a brick wall and make it look like feel like it's their own or something cool like that. But this was this was your place, right? And people recognizing what it was. When that happened, did it start to kind of sink in for you? Like, oh wait, maybe this is something, or this is as cool as we think it is?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think a lot of people at that point were trying to connect in some way. And it was mostly digitally. Like everyone was using social media. A lot of people got into TikTok and such stuff like that. And I think they were just looking for something or a way to connect with people, like a way to start a conversation. And I started a lot of conversations over that, because a lot of people were like, oh, what are you doing? Like, can I come over and paint? Like, how do you come up with these ideas? So it kind of got the ball rolling in a very casual way. And little did I know that there were people in our neighborhood who were seeing it, who had the same questions, but we hadn't seen them yet.
Oh, it's amazing. Now, Mindy, okay, so take us in, like, let's say months 3, 4, and 5. Like you said, you didn't necessarily struggle at first with any ideas, but did people start giving you ideas around the community, or was it still coming from you?
Everybody's got an idea.
And that's incredible because just the thought, like everyone's got an idea and that's community coming together, right? I mean, that's what's so striking about what you've created here and this movement, because it's like they're thinking about it. They want to come participate, right? And first potentially giving you ideas. I mean, when did you start letting others paint as well?
I'm looking at my Instagram right now. My girlfriend Tiffany and my girlfriend Kathy came over week 9 and painted a congratulations to the class of 2020. We had Nan from down the street who did a Winnie the Pooh week 6. So our first guest painter was week 6.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So pretty early on in the movement and all of that, mm-hmm. right? Did you feel like, wait, I'm territorial, I'm taking this back, this is ours? Or was it feeling good to say, oh, awesome, we can alleviate the burden on us a little bit, or this is amazing because we're bringing the community together?
This is amazing.
Yeah.
That's what we thought. This is amazing.
That's such a great feeling. Yeah. Audrey, did you have your friends come over and start painting as well?
Yeah, I've definitely had a few friends. That summer, the summer of 2020 is when I started having like friends over, or they started becoming interested in doing it, or just wanted to like watch us or just like hang out while we were doing it. So yeah, we definitely got a lot of inquiries about it, or a lot of people were like, oh, I'm not artistic, like I don't want to, but I would love to. And we're like, no, come paint with us, like we'll show you how.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, what I see, like that's what's so great to hear about it, because it's, there's that feeling, and that's the feeling of what the pandemic gives you, right? You have questions about yourself, you're going to question your own ability, your own mental state and all of that. And then here you are making sure like, no, we're doing something, come do it with us. I mean, that's the whole point of helping us have gotten through where we're at, and certainly what we continue to have to go through after the fact.
And a lot of the people that have come to paint have brought their kids. So it's a family event.
Right. And I'm glad you really brought that up, because that's just expanding into everything. But at first it wasn't on social media, right? I think you had mentioned that for 6 months, it was just you kind of taking pictures for, and thinking that it was going to be potentially localized. But then you said 6 months in, you put it on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened then?
So I only made the Instagram account because we started getting like screenshots from friends and family being like, oh, look, my friend from this part of the city saw it and they're wondering who's painting it. Like, can I connect you guys? And like people were just like asking questions to other people who couldn't answer. So I thought we need to take some authority over this. Like, let's make this a thing. Like, let's create a platform where we can start posting these. So I was away at school at the time. That would have been October of 2020. And I just created the account and I started posting in order everything we had done at that point. And we organically got quite a bit of followers pretty fast. Like probably within the first week, we got 200 and just kind of expanded from there.
Wow. Yeah. And again, I mean, if anybody knows anything about social media, that's a pretty sizable number organically to get it right off the bat. Mindy, what did you think of all of this? I mean, when you went online with this, were you excited that it was happening, or
I was?
Yeah,
I was. Our most famous like was from Reese Witherspoon.
There you go. That's real.
I know. So yeah, we woke up in the middle of the night screaming.
Yeah, like we made it. This is as cool as it gets. What I mean, have you had anybody travel from somewhat of a distance to come do one of the doors? I know you're thinking, well, I guess I'll post it another way. What's the furthest somebody's come to paint on the door?
I think it's all been local, to be quite honest. Okay. We've gotten letters. We got flowers from someone in the Central Valley. We got cookies from someone down in Paso Robles. We've gotten
Paso Robles. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
My neck of the woods. We're closer too.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of really nice comments and letters in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
Like handwritten letters, right? I mean, like they see you taking the time to go out there and paint the door. How long does it take to paint a door, by the way?
A couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's a nice thing to do as a family, right? And a couple hour killer off your phones, doing something and feeling good about it. Yeah, it's very cool. I would assume it's therapeutic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Okay. Now you showed me something, Mindy, before we even got on here. There was a little book that somebody put together. Maybe you can hold it up to the screen and show us what's going on.
See this. So one of our neighbors made a book for us. This is her dog. And every week she took a picture of her dog in front of our can you see that? In front of our door. So she made us a book from the whole year.
That's
And
so
she's
cool.
become a nice friend of ours.
Yeah, there you go. And that's another reason, right? I mean, and to think about it, like a lot of us know our neighbors or we say hi or whatever it may be, but you're actually out there doing the outreach, having people come over, like you say. I mean, is that what you were hoping for? When it first began, did you kind of look around and be like, I wish I knew, I've been here my whole life, but I wish I knew people even a little bit better? Or was that not even on your mind?
I'm not sure that was on our mind.
Yeah,
I think we were self-soothing.
Right.
It really just began with let's do something for us that feels right, and then all of a sudden realizing that it's having a big effect on everybody else, and doing it. All right, so here we are now. I mean, like you said, I mean, we were talking about 2020 and what it was like those first 12 months, but like I think it's over 120 doors now that you've done.
About, yeah.
Okay, wow. And how long does this go on? I mean, Audrey, you're obviously a very big part of this. What happens? Are you staying at home for a while, or are you moving back on? And what happens when you do?
I'm not quite sure yet. I think as of right now, just because I graduated during a very transitional time, like in the world where a lot of people weren't maybe getting back on their feet as fast as they were, or like everything was just kind of shifting back to like pre-pandemic. So since I have a job like local, I want to stay local for now. But I don't know, like personally for myself, but for the garage door, I think we're just going to keep doing it as long as we can, like as long as we're both together, certainly.
Yeah, that's really nice. And where do you go from here though with it? I mean, right? I mean, obviously you have a certain sizable following now on Instagram. What are you hoping to do with it? What are you hoping to achieve, I guess? What's the next step?
Like, as you said, we've kind of started a movement, and I think with a lot of movements, you may hit a point where it's like, okay, where do we go from here? We've talked about, just because we've been inspired by like the generosity of like other people, like people all the time offer like, can we buy your paint? Can we do this? Can we do that? And we're like, we're good. Like we have to buy paint maybe like twice a year, 2 or 3 times a year at most. So, and they just want like a way to help or like support us. And we were thinking about starting a nonprofit, like an art-based nonprofit in some way.
Yeah, tell us what that looks like. I mean, let's flesh that out for a second. What do we do? What's an art-based nonprofit look like?
I've kind of put out the idea just because to kind of stay true to what we're doing. Like we kind of do like a grant type ordeal. Like if people wanted to do street art or a mural, we would like give them the grant for that and like provide what they needed. So they would do something similar to us, but maybe in a bigger city on a wall or something more permanent, certainly. And we would be the funding behind that, essentially.
Oh, that's very cool. Spreading joy that way. That's a really good idea. And is it just on Instagram, by the way, or are you doing any other social media?
We have a Twitter. I haven't been posting on it. Like I have a couple handles for us personally, but Instagram's our main one just because that's what took off the fastest and that's what needs the most management.
I get that. And it's obviously so visual and it's, so focused on pictures. Yeah, on Twitter, you can add the image and all of that, but then everybody wants to talk about it and then lead you in some other direction. But it seems to stay pretty focused when it's on Instagram, and that's really cool. Mindy, do you post on the Instagram as well?
No, she's the social media person.
She's the maven. Got it.
Yeah, she's the one. She's the social media director for Garage Door WC.
Yeah.
Well, what do you hope from this? I mean, obviously, Audrey had a really cogent idea of, what to do as a nonprofit, but what are you hoping yourself to see as it continues?
I would just like to see more people in the community come over and paint. Honestly, we offer it to people all the time, and people are scared because it's such a huge palette. But the beautiful thing about it is it's such a huge palette. It's hard to screw up. And we started this and we were not very artistic, and we would find things here and there that would inspire us, maybe a quote or a drawing, and kind of make it our own.
Right.
So I would love to line up people to paint for the next 6 months.
How awesome would that be? Yeah. Now, I'm just doing the math. I mean, if you can have basically like 25 doors in a row, just like set, here's your slot, and have somebody come in. And there's got to be some people close to you, right, who are very artistic, right, who have this ability to come and just put that one mural on the door that's just going to wow everybody, right? I mean, or has there been? I'm wondering. I mean, of the 120, has there been like one or two where everybody's like, yo, that one, those in particular were outstanding, and maybe those got the most likes, or that blew up virally?
Every time I scroll through, I think, oh, I love that door. And then I see the next one. Oh, that one's my favorite. So they're all kind of like your little children. And at the
Of course, yeah.
time, socially, they may not be as important when we look back a year later, but at the time, whatever we did made sense to the moment. Whether there were fires in California, or we were talking about masks, or the fact that you need to vote. I'm just scrolling through them. They all touched our heart that week. We did one which was an envelope when they were talking about defunding the post office. We did one when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. We did the Lorax. We did the Beatles. We like the Beatles.
Who doesn't like the Beatles?
Who doesn't?
But that's really incredible. And yeah, you bring up a really good point, because it's never ending. Yeah, you start with the pandemic, but there's always something going on in the world, of course, that touches our hearts and our minds and what we got to think about, and that will necessarily or necessitate bringing us together as a community and working through it together. Certainly. Have you done anything controversial? Do you want to do anything controversial?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have. We definitely have a political lean to one side, and sometimes those aren't as popular with our neighborhood as others. Probably our most controversial was the one about science. We quoted Neil deGrasse Tyson about. Let me find that one, and we posted that one on Nextdoor, and people lost their minds.
Well, let's talk about Nextdoor for a second, because it can be a little bit of a hot button app, right? You go on there and somebody's always got something to say. Was there a reason you put it on there? I mean, were you trying to kind of spark that a little bit?
Well, once I started on Instagram, I kind of realized this may not be reaching everybody. Not everyone's on social media, or not everyone's on Instagram. So I started posting it on Nextdoor as well. I'm like, this is a community thing. Let's get the community involved. Let's bring it directly to them. And of course, we met a lot of people through that, but also that's when we started getting like our first big like criticism, because for a while because we weren't on social media, we didn't know who was seeing it. We didn't know the opinions of others. And now we did. And that was a little jarring to deal with. Definitely.
Are you glad you did it?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
The great Bernie Brillstein wrote a book. He said, "You're no one in Hollywood until someone wants you dead." So you haven't made it, until that's what it is. I mean, and that's really kind of what it should be. Why not, right? I mean, spark a little controversy and bring a talking point to it, and that's certainly going to make a difference with everybody. So I'm excited to hear it. I hope some of the doors moving forward are a bit more controversial. Or maybe you could bring in some people to do the doors who they themselves have a little controversy in their past, right? I mean, that could be very interesting. Maybe
absolutely.
Yeah, that would be really cool. But it is amazing that you've done it for this long. Obviously, that you want to continue doing it. Hope it works out. And yeah, believe it or not, we have hit our 30-minute mark. I told you it would go fast. Yes. Audrey and Mindy Ellison, Garage Door WC, at Garage Door WC. On Instagram. You've got to see this. I did. I scrolled through. I looked at like dozens and dozens of doors, and I was really drawn in, and it is beautiful. It's incredible what you've created. So I just want to thank both of you. Just so you know, it did. It touched my heart, especially that very first one. And I'm drawn in, and I just think it's really wonderful that you've kept up with this long. I think, just to again put that in perspective, it's one thing to do something for six weeks, or even 6 months, but you've kept up with it so long, and you're talking about blowing it into something bigger. So really, thank you. I guess I just want to say that.
Thank you.
There's good in the world, and it's nice to know that there is.
Yay. So, thank you.
Very much appreciate you joining us today. And you could put this video on the Instagram stories for it. So we'll send that to you.
We will.
Awesome.
All right, have a nice
Thanks,
day.
Aaron.
You will.
Thank you.
Bye.